everybody. Welcome back to Heal Yourself Naturally, brought to you by IPAC. My name is Nicole Dromi. I'm joined by the lovely Sara and Hava Levy. Today, we're going to jump straight into it because we have such a lovely episode. And the name is Immune Support and Ways to Stay Healthy, which everybody loves to talk about. We all need to really listen into this episode, and we have so much knowledge from our lovely healers on how to keep yourself healthy, what to do if you do get sick, and how to boost up that immune system. So let's get straight into it. Let's go with you, Sara. I'd love to hear from you on what generally speaking, what do people need to do in order to keep their immune support up, and how to keep themselves healthy?
Well, there's a lot of different ways to do that, but I think the first thing that comes to mind is obviously eat well, and get a lot of vitamin C and stop eating sugar. Sugar is horrible for the immune system. But also when you get sick, don't go on this Robitussin stuff or all these suppressants. Of course, this is why we do what we do, to make medicines to support the body through this time. And it certainly isn't hiding in your home and wearing a mask and staying away from people, because that only drives poor immune function as well. So I would say, yeah, my first and foremost is eat well. Eat well. Eat foods high in vitamin C, your citruses, drink lemon water. In the wintertime, make soup from scratch. And here at the shop, I carry a bone soup mix, I call it. And I have a lot of different herbs in there. I know we'll probably talk about herbs in a bit, but, a lot of herbs and mushrooms that come in for immune health. But, your grandma's chicken soup, things that are nourishing, things that are warming, things that support your body's ability to digest your food, So eat well, stay away from sugar. And stay away from the pharmacies that just have all this crap medicines that just don't serve your body. They suppress your body. So, the Mucinex and the Tussins, all the Tussins, right? These suppress your body's ability to expectorate and suppress your body's ability to create mucus. And mucus is there for a reason. Mucus from your lungs and your nose are protective, and it's antimicrobial. And we know that when we have a cold, it's usually we get runny noses and we get a cough. Well, that's your body helping you expel that bacteria. You get rid of all that stuff by using cough suppressants and Mucinexes and the other sinus stuff that people go on. It dries up your mucous membranes and makes your body more susceptible to secondary infections. So then you're going on antibiotics, which is another thing you want to avoid for immune function.
Right.
Antibiotics kill your immune system.
Right. Well, that is all great stuff. Now, Hava, I'd love to understand from you what would you suggest to people on just keeping their immune system up throughout the year? We'll go into what to do when you're sick. I think everybody needs to hear and understand exactly what needs to happen and the process in which our body goes through while we're being sick. Like you said, mucus is a good thing. Fevers are a good thing. We just need to know how to manage them and how to help the body expel. So, Hava, what would you say? How do I stay overall healthy throughout the year? What do I have to do in order to avoid getting sick?
Right. So I would add on top of what Sara said, she mentioned about the clean diet. I would mention a sun exposure. It's very important to get enough vitamin D, and not vitamin D from the capsules and the tablets, which it's not bad when there is a problem in the body, but it's very important in the summertime. Prepare yourself and be on the sun, be in nature as much as possible, so that way you will have enough storage of a good important vitamin D. So that's what I would say. Be outside, enjoy the sun. There is a time, seasons are for reason, and there is a time that we need to be in home, and there is a time that we need to be outside. And summertime is the time of preparation for the winter. So that's very important. And most people, when they get sick in the winter time. Why they get sick in the winter? Because don't have enough, they didn't boost their immune system enough. Most people lacking vitamin D because they live inside the house and not going outside enough. And then when the winter kicks in, many people are already lacking vitamin D. So then they have a problem and their immune system is low. So that's one thing. I would say go outside, be with nature as much as it possible. I would say storage this important vitamin in your liver, and your kidneys. Then it's like kind of storage goes in both places. Then I would say about proper hydration. It's very important to drink enough. We don't drink enough. We think that maybe a few cups a day is enough, but each one is individual. It depends if you are exercising or if you're doing any sort of if you go to sauna, let's say, are you getting enough hydration? Because all diseases come when we also dehydrated. So it's very important to keep ourselves very well hydrated. And very important is to drink a good clean water. Most people, they don't drink clean water. I hear still cases of people who are still drinking water from the sink. This is not a good idea. That's very dangerous because in the sink they have a lot of different pesticides, different chemicals, mixtures, don't ask what. So it's important a clean source of water. So as more you drink, the more your body will be able to expel the garbage out of your system. Another thing is also sweat more, which is important because sweating is that helps to remove garbage out of your system. And as we mentioned before, we eat, drink, and poop from our skin. So that's the same thing. If you keep your skin clean, if you drink well, if you, as Sara said, you eat well, then you should be fine. And one more thing I would add is emotional health. And I do think that we didn't speak enough about emotional health, but I do see that emotions play a very important role in our life. Emotions are emotions are the one that we can blame when we get sick. We have studies that shows that many women, let's say, get breast cancer when they're not happy with their marriage life, let's say. So what does it shows you? That shows you that emotional status is very important. We might eat the cleanest food, we might drink the purest water, but if wake up in the morning and say, oh my gosh, there is another day of fear, or there is another day where I don't feel comfortable or happy or whatever, that brings diseases. So I just really want to let people know that really it's important to address the emotional health as well. So if we can address emotions, so we have a whole package to be healthy.
Absolutely. I want to touch base on what you said with drinking good sources of water, because a lot of people either they're making the mistake of drinking out of their sink, drinking tap water, which depending on the state you're in, they're all different loos of things and mixtures of chemicals and things that they're putting in there. But it is important to drink good source of water throughout the year, regardless of trying to boost your immune system or not. What would you say your favorite source of water is, Sara?
My favorite source of water?
Like, what would you suggest a client to,
right.
because that is something that we talk about a lot, about drinking good sources of water. What would you say is your go-to?
I would always have, I would ask where people live for one thing.
Yeah.
At my house, I have awesome water. So I drink mine out of the sink. But that's not obviously everybody. If it's city water, I would absolutely have them do some kind of carbon filtration. And sometimes with chlorine, you have to do it twice because it's hard to get it out of there. I really like the the carbon filtration system, which is great for drinking water. And then there's that Berkeley system, which they're kind of getting a bad rap because it's not taking out all the pesticides and things that they said that it was going to do. So certainly investigate different filtration methods that are available, but absolutely filter your water before you drink it. Unless you want to go with some water company, which is very expensive. And a lot of that water sits in plastic. So I don't particularly suggest that for people. And I don't suggest people get bottled water out of the
Right.
grocery store because it's sitting in that plastic. So really a carbon filter is one of the best ways to filter your water, but also think about investing in a good sink mounted RO unit. And we had one of these in our prior home that just sat under the sink, and it came with like 5 different filters. It also had a UV light um, option, which we didn't do, but it was like a four or 5 different filters that the water went through, and we use that exclusively for drinking water. So that's a little bit
Right.
pricier, but these units aren't that bad. I mean, when we bought it, I think this was, a while ago. They're probably like $150. It might be a little bit more now, but and the only caveat to that is that you have to buy the
The
filtration,
filters.
the filters, but that kept our water clean for us. And
Yeah.
we had a dug well at the time. And if you live in a rural area and you have a dug well, a lot of that can be surface water, which you don't want to be ingesting. So it's really important to filter that. But get your water tested too. If you're in a
Right.
rural area and you have your own well and it's an artesian well, which is a bedrock well, which are usually very deep, then I would just suggest go to your state. Every state has an ability to test your water for the basic stuff. And you could even, if you wanted to spend a little bit more money, you could because in one of my past lives I was an environmental consultant, so I knew where to go in order to get these testing kits through the state to
Right.
test, and I also knew where to go for these private companies that will test your water for things like metals and PAHs and VOCs, which is all like these chemicals that can come from underground storage tank leaks and gas station leaks, and but there's and obviously metals, but there's a lot of stuff you can test your water for. So if you really want to get down and dirty with it, you can spend a
I
little
know they sell a lot of fancy kits now on Amazon, so it's really not that difficult if someone wants to go the extra mile. And I think that's important because it's something that we're ingesting. Our body is made up of so much water, so it's very important to be able to put something that's good into our body, especially if it's made out of a lot of water. So, Kava, I know that you have suggested in the past when we've done certain classes. I know you have a couple of favorites. I'd love to hear from you. What are your favorite sources of water?
Well, I like distilled water. I like a distillation process because it removes all the inorganic minerals from the water, and I think this water is one of the most incredible ones because it's also called the hungry water. It goes into the body and pulls the toxins out. Many people think that this is not okay and we are losing minerals, and that's not correct. And we need to fix everyone till everyone will understand that distilled water is actually God-given water. And not many people are lucky like Sara. We're living in a city, and and in the city the water is very bad, and not just bad, it's full of a lot of toxins. And we've just heard recently that they dump even dead bodies into the sewer system, and then they kind of, yeah. So that's, it's really crazy even to say such thing or even think about such thing. And that's why whoever is not fortunate enough to live in and they were living in the city is very important. And my favorite is the steam distill. So distiller, it doesn't cost that much. It costs about like 250, and it can distill enough water for you to drink through the day. And usually those machines are very helpful, and also you can prepare medicine with it. Distill, you can also distill herbs from it, so you can prepare a parasite cleanse, distilled waters, and many other things. You can play around endlessly, but steam distilled water is my way to go. And then is reverse osmosis is good, you know. And I also would suggest go on Amazon and buy filters. Let's say I don't have a whole house filtration, so I do pieces by pieces. Here I have reverse osmosis. Here I have a steam distilled water. I also have a Brown's gas. It's a special machine that infuses with a gas, which is a ozone kind of, and it creates more oxygen in the water. So it's another way of doing it, but it's extra mile.
Yeah,
But
right.
right, which is, it's very helpful and very good. And then I also, in each shower, I installed like a filter for, it's about like $40-50, not a big deal. And once a year, or maybe even a couple times a year you change the filter, and that way you kind of protect it. But yeah,
Right.
my favorite is steam distilled, and it does not remove any minerals. It's doing an opposite. It removes all the inorganic toxic material out of your system, and that's what we want when we drink. It's not only about hydration, but also removing garbage out of your system, and it's very
Right.
important. And as
I
Sarah
think,
mentioned, if we drink from plastic, if we drink from all those, you actually drink plastic with it, and
right.
it's a problem. And we can
And
do
that's
as
adding more toxicity to your body, which, you know, your body's trying to fight it. Your immune system goes into high gear. Then when something comes, like a common cold or flu, it's just overworked, right? It's just, there's so much going on. Number one, it's a topic that we've discussed, is clearing out the materials in your body, all the junk that's in your tummy, getting it out, making sure that there's not a lot of toxins in your gut in order for the body to function properly, right? So that, I think, is a big key, and also keeping your immune system up. Like Sara said, eating healthy. We discussed this in our previous podcast, and I think people will understand once they watch the classes in the order of which they are, you know, first, second, and third. We talked about circulation, then we talked about the gut, we talked about what was our
the
third
Detox.
class?
detox.
Detox, detoxification process of the body, and now boosting your immune system. So now, you know, that's what the body has to go through in order to stay healthy. Let's talk about some wonderful herbs and things that people will most likely have at home that they don't even know does wonders for your immune system, right? These are herbs that they can find on hand at all times. And a lot of people have them in their gardens, in their yards, or even just in their spice cabinet. And I'd love to hear from you guys about those common herbs that we all know and love and have in our home that help boost your immune system. Then we'll go into the finer ones, the ones that people will probably likely have to purchase. Sara, what are some of your, let's say, top two herbs that you could find at home that can keep your immune system boosted?
I only can pick two.
I don't know, whatever. I just want to hear from both of you. I'm sure. Okay, let's hear it. Let's hear the first
Well,
five that we all have at home.
well, the first one, actually, the aromatics, can that count as one?
Yeah, it definitely can,
So most
because
people have rosemary, thyme, oregano, especially. You know, these are very antimicrobial, so they act as immune supportive. So if
right,
you're fighting a cold, you know, they kind of can help fight that virus. And everybody, you know, most everybody has some kind of herb in their spice cabinet, right? When they're making their turkey dinner, there's sage. Sage is excellent.
right,
Sage is wonderful for sore throats, and it can actually help with strep throat. And obviously you can do these in teas, and decoctions. And so I would say the aromatics, but then my other favorite would be ginger, because
right,
ginger and cayenne, because they're movers. So they're very pungent, and they're going to help move things out of the body. So that includes viruses and different infection, you know, pathogens. And you can use ginger in your food. You can make it straight up ginger tea. You can even make a ginger foot bath if you wanted to get, you know, crazy with it. You could put all your aromatics
get
and the
wild.
ginger right in your foot bath, and you can do a foot bath, whether you feel sick or not. I mean, things that come up through the feet are very, very they're not only warming, but they're very, they get right into your body that way. So that would be my, those would be my go-tos that everybody has.
Everybody has, exactly. And people don't realize they go to these fancy stores, health stores, and buy all these concoctions, but they don't realize, hey, let me just open my spice cabinet. Most everybody has rosemary or oregano or whatnot. Make a simple infusion, whether it be a tincture, oil infusion, a tea, or even a foot bath. That's
Or a
so
soup.
simple.
Make soup.
Or a soup, right? Make a soup. The Jewish penicillin chicken soup. It's just but it always works. It always works.
Always.
Hava, what are your favorites?
My favorite always the garlic. As always, I speak a lot about the garlic. Well, the garlic and the onions, those two are very important, and you can already now start preparing yourself for the winter. And I would do a garlic oil and garlic tincture is when you take a garlic and you infuse it in oil, and that will be amazing because that will help to clear any sort of infection if you have in your ears, or if it's in the sinuses, or even just a headache, or just a rub a feet with this oil. So that I would suggest. Another my favorite is garlic tincture, and the garlic is just you get a lot of bunch of cloves of garlic, and you add some vodka to it, and you let it sit, and you strain it, and then you have a powerful medicine that can also be added into honey, into soups if you want to extra boost, or even just rubbing over certain areas, because sometimes oil takes time to get incorporated till it gets into the system. So garlic in tincture, which is alcohol, works faster in some cases. Then my next favorite is everybody is very high into preparing a fire cider. So I would suggest doing fire cider. And fire cider is so amazing. I've done a couple classes where we all prepare the fire cider. And what is fire cider? It's all my favorite herbs in a one jar. You basically get the one large jar and you pile up with the garlic and onion. And my next herb favorite is cayenne, and you can add the thyme and the rosemary. You can play around. And then another one is a horseradish if you want to make it more pungent. And then you add vinegar to it and you let it sit, and then you strain it after a month. Let's say if you forgot about that, that's still fine. And then you have this mixture that you can combine with honey, and here we go, you have this amazing remedy that you can have it at home at all times. So this is actually an amazing time to start preparing those stuff. So yeah, so the garlic and onion, cayenne. Another herb, my favorite, is mustard. Everyone should have a mustard because mustard is amazing. And you can also throw mustard inside the bath, which is as well as you do with the ginger. And it also helps you kind of open up congestions and stuff like that. In Russia, we use mustard plaster. That's like plasters made of mustard. So that's another thing that I would suggest, so yeah, so this is basically my favorite ones. And I can say one more, which is the yarrow. And I love yarrow very much in a way that it also helps to remove garbage out of your system and also hydrate you in a certain way. So yarrow is a herb, but I don't know if we
even well, we don't even have to just talk about herbs. Let's talk about the wonderful honey, right? Honey, get it, have it at all times from your local farms around you, because it's also helps with seasonal allergies, because the bees are feeding off of stuff that's around you and pollinating things that are around you. So the honey that they're producing will help with seasonal allergies. Also, it's a great immune booster, right? So taking a spoonful of honey when you're not feeling sick, coating that wonderful throat of yours, that is something that everybody should have at home. Also, I remember learning long ago that olive leaf, like from olive trees, take that, brew it into tea. That is a huge immune booster. Helps fight infections. It's like a natural antibiotic. So I think we gave quite a few things that most people should have on hand. And they're very easy to come by. If not, these are things that you can get at your supermarket rather than having to order them and wait for them. So if you're not feeling good, or if you feel like you're starting to come down with something, or even if you want to do it in a preventative way, just to, like Kava said, the flu season or cold season is coming. Not that we've seen the flu much anymore, but that's another topic. But it is important to, right, it has a new name. Everything has a fabulous new name, and now it's just so much scarier to the population. Oh, we're gonna all die, and that's another topic. But prepare things in advance, like tinctures or the fire cider, or just know how to prepare these things on your own so that you are prepared beforehand, before these seasons kick in. And let's talk about wonderful elderberry, right? A lot of people can also buy their own elderberries and make them into their own syrups. And I think it's something that everybody should do on their own. If not, you both can visit Kava and Sarah's website, which I'll mention them again because they're so amazing. Sarah's Herbs and havawellness.com, sarahsherbs.com, and havawellness.com. They both have a lot of great products on there that you can buy. And I think you should check them out regardless. And okay, let's talk about the non-basic herbs, things that people don't have on hand. Kava, you already mentioned yarrow. I don't believe many people have yarrow on hand, but that is something that they should purchase. Like you said, it can help fight infections and pull out toxins. Sarah, what are a few of your favorites? I'm not going to narrow it down to a number because I know you have a lot. What are some of your favorite herbs that are not so common and people don't have on hand?
Well, my favorite are medicinal mushrooms. Hands down.
Okay.
I like elderberry. Elderberry syrup is wonderful for the flu virus, but I make this what I call deep forest immunity. And it's a 14 mushroom blend with added echinacea, burdock, and eleuthero root. Some people might know these, plants, some might not. But if I feel like I'm getting sick with anything, it doesn't matter, and I start taking this syrup concoction that I made, I don't get sick. And I know that sounds almost crazy, but
No,
it's
not to us, not to us.
But it's true. And if you dose it high enough, you actually can feel your face will actually get hot, and you can feel the immune cells working to kill off. Because of course, when we are infected with a virus or something, the first route of exposure is through your mouth and your nose. So we have all these immune glands and cells ready for action. And that's why your face gets really hot when you take this deep forest immunity. And I'll take, like, I don't know, 2 ounces. I'll get a shot glass and do 2 ounces 3 times a day. It knocks out a COVID, it knocks out the flu, and it helps you get better quicker. So the other herbs in there are things like burdock root, it's a blood cleanser, and it's really, really nice for the liver. And it's also high in minerals, so it's supportive in many different ways. The eleuthero is known as what we call an adaptogen. And adaptogens help our bodies deal with stress. But what I really like about eleuthero is it's also very immune supportive in that action. And then, of course, echinacea. Everybody knows echinacea, I would hope, or have heard about it. Echinacea root is it's amazing for T cell function. So it's really going to get those immune cells that will fight anything, as opposed to those other cells that have already learned stuff, right? So it's the T cells that are kind of managing all the pathogens, and echinacea really, really helps support those cells. So that's kind of, I put all those together. And if you take enough of it, you just don't get sick. Caveats to that whole scenario is, medicinal mushrooms should not be used with people who have certain autoimmunities. So things like a rheumatoid arthritis or Sjogren's or lupus, we really have to be careful with stimulating the immune system with some people. And even COVID has this autoimmune thing going on with certain people.
Right.
So we want to be mindful of all that. These are general recommendations. And I always suggest people work with somebody that knows, the ins and outs of this stuff. And of course, elderberry syrup, which is excellent for the flu. But I think my go-to is medicinal mushrooms. They will knock out pathogens before they even get a chance to get into your body.
Right. So at first sign, just take it as much as you can. Also listen to your body. So if you're taking 3 shots and it's too much for you, then the next day take 2. And right, it's all about listening to your body and listening to those first signs. So if you're getting a little bit of a tension headache in your face or a little bit of a runny nose, don't suppress it. Don't start freaking out. Aid your body in expelling everything and take care of what needs to be taken care of immediately so that you don't get sick, or that symptoms don't overpower everything and start taking over, and then you feeling sorry for yourself. I'm so sick. And then it's you always find people at their breaking point when they're at the peak of sickness, but that's when the body is really doing and pushing itself to heal. And a lot of people cave in and start taking things like Tylenol or whatever the case it's going to help me. But you're actually making the problem way worse. Because if the body is really pushing itself and you're getting to that peak, right? What's going to happen there after that? If you let things ride naturally and you start supporting your body, eventually and quite quickly, if you're doing it right, you're going to feel better. But if you're at that moment where you're completely desperate and you do take Tylenol or any kind of suppressant, then what the body does is it feels good for a little bit, but you're actually helping whatever virus or whatever comes into your body get much, much stronger. And then you're way weaker, and then it takes longer for your body to fight it, or it even comes back tenfold the next time around, because your body is, trying to learn this virus, trying to help your immune system be able to fight it, but then you're suppressing everything. So, Hava, what are your favorite herbs that are not so common that people should have on hand if they want to grab a couple, or some remedies that you can teach us on what to do when people are feeling sick, or try to eliminate. We all know cold and flus are one and the same. They're an illness. They should be treated the same. There's symptoms that should be treated differently. Every symptom has its own remedy, but what are some of your favorite herbs to help combat overall illnesses like flus and colds?
Right. So whenever by me someone gets sick, let's say, the first thing I would use my quick immune boost, which is a combination of echinacea and elderberry. I feel like this combination was a very successful formula, and it really works very nicely. So I do suggest echinacea as one of the first defenses. And so this is my favorite, which called Quick Immune Boost on my website. And it's a very powerful, it's a glyceride formula, which is sweet and can be taken from tiny babies, newborn babies, to adults, and there is no problem with it. So that's echinacea, something that I would suggest to have on hand at all times. And then the next thing that I feel that people need to get is to prepare their own herbal vitamin C. And in combination of herbal vitamin C, there's obviously, you can add some mushrooms, as Sara mentioned, and you also can add herbs maybe you've not heard them before, like amla, camu, hibiscus, rose hips, a little bit cayenne. So the combination of those different herbs are actually absolutely, ashwagandha, another one that really helps. And I love when people make their own herbal vitamin C instead of just going and buying, because if you go buy, you most times you're gonna get a vitamin C combination, which is mainly ascorbic acid, which comes from corn from China. I call it a China shit. So that's not good. So why not to go, let's say, on my Instagram, and I show step by step, and I actually even teach you how to capsulate your own formula. So it's not only empowering, but if you go on my Instagram, you'll see I take you step by step. I show all the herbs combination, and then it's absolutely delicious. And I even just prepared some, and it's right there on my kitchen. and I suggest everyone in my family to start taking it. And it's just so easy. It's just a couple herbs, you blend them together, and you can add them into the smoothie, or you can make a tincture. No needed. You can make delicious candies with some honey in it, and that's it. See, the idea is that, like, to use those herbs and not to be afraid. My job is to make people be confident and not to be scared, and to be, so yeah. So my herbs to go: echinacea, and a blend of herbal vitamin C, which is a camu, and there is also astragalus, and then rose hips. There is a few more.
Ashwagandha.
Yeah, astragalus and ashwagandha. Like, I kind of create a whole blend into it, and each time I play around. But the idea is to use those the herbs that are high in vitamin C. So camu is very good, Yeah, amla is very good. Then I found another herb that it's a little bit on the sour side, but works very nicely, and it's a grounded herb, grounded roses. The rose petals, they're so delicious. Yes, they might not have that huge amount of vitamin C, but what they have is a beautiful color. And then the vitamin C looks like a beautiful, like a purplish, pinkish color. And I think it's really nice. And also orange, orange
Peel?
peel,
Grated orange peel?
Yes, orange peel can be added into it. And some cayenne is a must, because cayenne is also by itself very high in vitamin C. So yeah, so that's the combination that I would use. And definitely, if you go on my website, you'll see that I prepared, I have a two formula, actually three: the quick immune boost, and then I have an immune support formula where which is a syrup based, and I combine 14 different herbs. And then I have one more, which is a cough syrup that I specifically designed for whooping cough, but from there it worked very nicely also for cough, and contains the thyme, actually. Yeah, so that's it. So those herbs, but I would suggest go on our website or on Instagram, and you'll see the herbs that I suggest, and blend and make your own. It's not complicated. You don't have to buy 16-ounce herb, but you can buy from your local herbalist a few ounces of small baggies, combine them together and play around. There's no harm by trying. I love when people get dirty, as Sara always said, get dirty to it.
Yeah, do the dirty work. You don't need to go to a pharmacy and get something with a fancy little box and label and whatever the case, that you have no idea you can't even name half of the ingredients in it. So people need to understand that it's...
The interesting point for me was, the awakening point is when there was the paranoia of this fake COVID fiasco, what happened is that there was no vitamin C available in the stores. Everybody rushed and bought this vitamin C, but that's good that you should have at home at all times. And if God forbid something happens, you know what to do. And it's very important, because very interesting. In the supermarkets, there was no garlic and there was no vitamin C. And if you wanted to order, and there was no flour, have nothing to do with the with the herbs. But
everybody was making bread during COVID. It was like a whole bread fest, right?
But the problem is that if you wanted to get vitamin C, there was none. The supermarket was empty, and if you would order from other stores, it would get you 3 weeks time, 4 weeks expecting time. So yeah, you need to be ready for that.
And most likely, like you said, it's not even a good source of vitamin C. So people should really do their research. Even some of the natural companies, you'll see it's mostly ascorbic acid, and you don't know the source of what that is. So making your own sounds amazing, especially from herbs, or like Sara said previously, eating foods that contain a high dose of vitamin C. Do some research, people. You're not helpless. So
No,
even if you...
I just want to say one thing about that, if you don't mind. So when vitamin C was all gone, I was showing people how to get it out of their backyards. So what has the best, really nice amount of vitamin C at that point in time Well, of course, rose hips. So we want to be harvesting rose hips, but white pine needles. And
Exactly.
so I was showing people how to make white pine needle tea, as easy as anything. You don't steep it for very long. You don't need to use a lot of really hot water because then all the vitamin C is just gone out of it. But make a simple pine needle tea. It's
Right.
literally out. And of course, again, I am rural, right? So
Right.
the people that I was talking to,
Or in
they're
your
like,
area,
white
yeah.
pine, what does white pine look like? And I would be taking pictures of it, or I would, show them on social media. I was taking pictures and giving formulations, and
I
this is
mean,
just a testament to where we've come as a human society, how far afield we've come from, the plants that grow right in our backyards.
Right.
yeah.
Because they're there for a reason. They've been put on this earth for a reason. We just really lost that touch and connection and understanding on why and what each one of them do. And that's why I love this podcast, because we get to learn about all these herbs and we're talking about this does this does this. And people need to understand creating your own sanctuary or pantry at home. It can take time, but if you add one of these herbs that we've mentioned, and every time you add one and keep it in a contained, a properly sealed bag or a good container, they can last a very long time. And so when push comes to shove and you do need that, then it's already there. It's already available. Take notes while we're talking, guys. Or you can always watch a recording again, but whatever really jumps at you, take notes. It's very imperative. The things that we talk about are really important. We wanted to really sink in. And the more you talk to other people about what we're talking about, it's going to sink in more. Now, we don't have much time, but I want to talk quickly about the misconception of fevers, right? We can get them when we get sick, and a lot of people get terrified of the fact that we get fevers. What is your ideology, Hava, on fevers? And people are right away popping a fever reducer in their mouth, but we all know that the body's doing something for a reason. What do you believe people should do when they get a fever, and how to manage it?
Well, I always say fever is a blessing. I always also say that every disease that comes up on us, it's just some sort of a blessing. And you might say this is absolutely ridiculous, how you can say such a crazy thing. But this is the way of body speaking to you and telling you that something is wrong, that I'm working on something. And instead really to taking a suppressing medications, me and Sarah, I hope Sarah obviously believes that it's all idea about never suppressing, but listening to the symptoms and helping the body to do what is designed to do to fix itself. So basically, our job is not to interfere and here, take the Tylenol, take this medication. Oh, because you have a fever, we have to knock down the fever. That's absolutely stupid, because what you have to do is the body tells you, you have a fever. What does it shows you? We need actually to bring more heat into the body, so that way the body can fight off whatever is in there and get rid of it. And this same can be applied for cough. And most people, oh, I have a cough. Cough is a blessing. Why is it a blessing? Because the body tells you you're coughing because there is something in there that I want this out. And most people, what they do, they hop something to suppress it. You suppress it, you're causing trouble. So fever, it's very important. People are afraid. And I always say fever is not to blame. Fever is a blessing, because most people who are very, very sick, who have a very terminally ill, they don't get fever. Why? Because our immune system is already weak and so tired and have no time already. It's just so downgrading. And if to heal, what people do, they create artificial fever. So so that just shows you that the fever is just your first defense, or second or third, it depends on each case, to fight some sort of an invader. And I always say the fever is your friend, is your blessing. You just have to know how to manage your fever. And this is all about. Don't never be afraid. And most people are so afraid and they have this misconception, oh, this is wrong. No, this is a good thing. Fever is there to help you, to get rid of
How
the
would you manage the fever? I just want people
there is
to
many
understand.
ways, obviously, to manage the fever, but the first important thing that I want everyone to remember, there is a two kind fever. There's two fever by itself is a blessing, but as I really wanted to people know that if you it's called a dry fever and wet fever. So the dry fever, it's actually a very dangerous, and it's called a death, can bring a death. And wet fever is a healing. So what is the difference between these two? It's very simple. When the body goes into the heat mode, you have to hydrate correctly, because if you don't hydrate, then the person internally can burn down. And that's what's called dry fever. And what is dry fever? Is when the people have a fever and they don't drink anything and they just burn themselves to the death. This is a very dangerous. So people need to know fever is a blessing, but you need to know how to work with fever. So how you work with fever? You hydrate. You drink a little bit, little by little, or you soak the baby in the tub because he cannot drink that much. So you soak the baby in the tub. An adult person cannot go in the bath, no problem. Soak his feet in the water. As more you hydrate, you put in, the faster the garbage will be eliminated through respiration, right? So that's the whole idea. And if most people actually in the hospitals, this is what they've done. And we have cases when they went to the hospital at the COVID time and they was not given any drinks, just a one can of cola, sometimes for a day and a half. That's hydration. That's a dry fever. That's a death, right? So that's everyone to remember. You have a fever, you have to hydrate. You don't hydrate, it can cause actually death. That's how serious the thing is, right? So
what do you believe about? Well, yes, sorry, Fava, to cut you off, but it's very important to keep hydrated when you have a fever, because like Fava said, there's the dangerous kind and the one that's the blessing. If you don't hydrate your body properly, it can become dangerous, at which point there's no messing around. You can really hurt your body, and you must hydrate at all times, whether it be slowly but surely, but just keep hydrating your body. There are different methods, like through your skin, like she said, getting in the bathtub and making sure your body's full of hydration. Now, Sara, what do you believe? How can what are your thoughts on fevers?
I agree with Hava. They're a blessing, but they're it's an indication that your body's fighting something, and that's your body's ability to fight the infection. If you get rid of the fever, you get rid of that ability for your body to fight the infection. So again, you're suppressing your body with Tylenols, and and I had to kind of retrain my mother, when she'd have the kids over when they were little, they had a fever of 100, and I'm like, it's 100. It's nothing. Let it ride. Please don't give them Tylenol. Please don't do that. Because she's always in fear. Is this a huge fear thing that people have, that it's too many, episodes of Little House on the Prairie with the fevers and people dying of infection? It's like, it's so ingrained in our brains that fever bad. But they're not bad. They can get bad if they're up to a certain degree. So if we're talking, 105, then we're using cool cloths. We're using, with children, have to be careful. But I'm still not using Tylenol. I'm using cool baths, cool cloths on the back of the head. Soak your feet in cold water. I'm using catnip. I'm using yarrow. All these wonderful
A little bit
herbs.
of peppermint essential oil that brings down a fever.
So many herbs that can help disperse the heat, which is what they basically do. And again, obviously, when you have a fever, you're not eating, you're drinking. So I'm even using not only just water, but when my kids would have fevers, and if I felt they were like 104 or something, I'd sneak in some catnip just to get things dispersed. But I'm never staunching a fever ever. And I think it's really hard, for a lot of people to get their head around it. It's kind of like the same thing with don't suppress a cough. Well, what if I can't sleep? Well, it's because you're not expectorating properly. So we give expectorants. That's what we do. And when my kids got a cough, I'd give them a little shot glass of the cough syrup that I would make, and just take little sips of it if you wake up with a cough. And they
Go
never
right back
have
to sleep.
have a cough when
Right.
they, it never kept them up ever. So
Right.
so I can just say fever good, suppressing bad.
Yeah. With every symptom of a cold and flu, like you both have been saying, and I think people need to understand that there are certain things that the body does, whether it is a runny nose, a cough, a headache. These are all signs that the body needs help with that certain area. So let's not suppress, let's eliminate, give the proper herbs. I also, you said something about, don't feed and just drink. A lot of people get pent up and are obsessed with feeding their children while they're sick, but they don't realize when they're sick, they don't want food. So why would you expect your child who can barely voice their opinion, or even if they can, and you're just absolutely not listening to them saying, I'm not hungry, and you're shoveling things down their throat? The body is doing something at the moment. When they're hungry, that means that it had a moment to acclimate and that they are ready to receive food. Do not shovel things down their throat or force them to eat things when they are not hungry, especially when they're not feeling well.
Yeah, and when you eat, you're actually going to preoccupy your immune system.
Right.
Think about it.
So the body's saying, I don't want food for a reason, people. Don't force it. Do not, I didn't eat today and I'm really sick. Okay, so have you hydrated? That's the only important thing right now. That is what you need to take care of. And going back to what you said, like when your mother would take care of your children, I remember not long ago, my mom was taking care of my kids. My sister was here. This was before she was a mom. Now she's even crazier. But one of the kids got sick. He had a fever, and I have no Tylenol, Motrin. I mean, all these. I don't have this at home, right? We just don't keep it around. It's not our clutch. We deal with things differently here. And I remember her frantically calling, like, where is it? Where is it? I'm like, why? Oh, your baby has 101 fever. I'm like, okay. Okay, so put him in a bath. Give him some watermelon or something. It was during the summer. Give him watermelon, like hydrate him that way if he doesn't want to drink anything. Like let him sleep. Let him sleep. Let him do his thing. Put a cold cloth on his head. There's so many things, and it's like try to remember what generations past did, because they really work, right? They're called grandma remedies, but they're there for a reason. The simple things like giving them a good bone broth soup. These are all things that we need to understand, that we just lost touch with reality. We think that it's so wrong when it's absolutely the right thing to do.
We've lost the connection. We've lost the connection to life, I think.
Exactly.
And I was just
totally
saying
agree
this to my students. I was like, it seems like every time we turn around, modern human interventions are trying to think that they can do it better than the human body, right? With vaccines, or do it better with farming. We've killed our soils like we've killed our guts. Like, stop. Right. Everything is so anti-life. Like, just sometimes, and I say this all the time, it's like sometimes the best intervention is nothing.
Nothing.
Let it ride. Let it go. Do its thing.
Actually, Dr. Mendelssohn, in one of the Dr. Mendelssohn's book, when he writes How to Raise a Child in Spite of Your Doctor, and he has other few amazing books, and he brought a study. Actually, the study was from Israel when the doctor decided not to come to work because they wanted to get a raise, and actually nobody was sick. And because there was no doctor to take care of them, so basically the people walked into the emergency care. There was nobody to take care of them. They would leave, and there was no sick people. Because the idea is, you're right, is just like it's anti-life. It's like, if sometimes not to do anything, so that God bless that at that time, right, that decide not
to trust your instinct.
I live nearby a huge hospital. It's called Cedar Sinai. It's like become a whole city. And I look at this, you see the tinted windows and everything like is so scared, and there's all anti-life. And sometimes I like pass by and I say, oh my gosh, I wish we can break all the windows and we just open it. I will break the whole building down, and we just tell the people, just look, enjoy the sun, just go outside. Right. You'll see, I'm telling you, at least 60% of the people who are in there, they will have a second chance in life. And the problem is, once they enter into this building, it looks like like a jail, I would say. Fear, and all these people around, and all these beeping machines, and all this is already that creates more fear and sickness. And if you know this amazing book about the sun, and I have to show you this. This is just incredible, because we're lacking this so much. And I bring this all the time in my classes, this image of the doctors, that they would have a hospital with the huge windows opened to
Yeah,
so
it's something that hospitals don't even have. You can't even crack open a window.
like windows like this. Let me show you a better image. This is, oh, look this one. You see
We
this?
can't see.
Okay, can you see it now?
Yeah. Hardly, yeah. There you go.
You see?
Are they outdoors? Where are they?
Yes, this is all open windows, and they all sit with their backs so the sun can shine. This is absolutely, this is what we're talking. We lost this. We lost this amazing knowledge that we had, like just the sun can heal the wounds, and we just like so anti-life, like Sara said. And yeah, we need to break this, but this is all about the fear. Stop with the fear. And you know, I was on a Just Think podcast maybe half year ago, a year ago. But my grandmother, she died because she had the high fever. She didn't die because she had a high fever. She died because the mismanagement, because they gave her something that suppressed the symptom. The body said, heck, what do you mean? I'm trying to do something and you're suppressing. Then the body will show a different symptom. And then and this is how it goes. You suppress the symptom.
It's a vicious cycle. It's a vicious cycle.
Yeah, so that's the whole
We want to break that cycle. We want people to understand it's in your hand. I think we touched on a lot of amazing things, really, really, even common herbs that you guys all should have on hand or already in your spice cabinet to boost your immune system, keep your body going. Always remember elimination of the junk that's in your body. So move those bowels, hydrate, eat well. And then if you need to add on those herbs, then you know you've got it all covered, people. You've got everything covered. You just need to follow the order in which we give our podcast. You'll see how we tie everything into one another. I'd love to thank you both for being here today. We are going to see you guys in a couple more weeks. Hope to see you all there. Our next discussion will be about healthy aging, ways to support longevity. So now we're getting into the fun stuff, the nitty gritty. People want to know, how do I stay beautiful and keep looking the way I do in 20 years from now? So we're going to talk about healthy aging and what does that mean? And I hope to see you guys at our next episode. Thank you all for joining us. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.